Hi guys, welcome to another night in the garage. Well, I was working on some more last night. Didn't get really far. It is it is so close. Yet it just seems just off. That does need to go to the edge of there because that's the seal for the door gasket, and that's the seal for the door gasket. And you can move this over, which pushes that side of the car over because the back corner and front corner aren't moving, which tells me this thing's trying to twist on me. Right there, a little bit of weld. When you move this over here, that chunk of weld messes with you. So I gotta chop that out. I've got to totally inspect that A-pillar, make sure its welds are all out, and it sits in there. Pull this tunnel out, turn it over, and tap all those holes. I think we got a storm coming in. Then I think what I'm going to do is put this thing back up in here. And I'm going to take a bungee cord or a tarp strap and go from that hole, hook it up to the window here, and that hole at the A-pillar is the same one on this side, so run one up to that window and bring the chassis back in here. Drop this bad boy back on the chassis. Get all them bolts back in on that side. Get them to where they fit all on this side. All the rest of the bolts, get it all bolted together. And use the chassis as my jig now. Because the pans are in, so it's got to fit that chassis. So, now that I got the firewall good enough in there, I don't have to pull this thing back off until she's all welded up. So, that's my plan now. Get her back on the chassis. Everything bolted up underneath. And then make this body fit that tunnel. And then I can cut that all loose over there. Once I get this side to where it fits and everything works good, I can weld the shit out of it. I don't need them bars in there anymore. And then I can mess with those pillars, try and tweak them to get that door opening right. And get that all welded in. Then I can get the... Yeah, I think we got a storm coming in. I can get the metal welded along the front of the tunnel. And the kick panel. Get that quarter panel in there. I'm debating on this quarter if I should just get another one of these. You don't use this bottom piece. You cut it off because that gives you your flange and it gives you where you spot weld to the tunnel. This bottom part is only if you're trying to fix the car without putting tunnels in. That bottom nut is missing on this side. pretty much that's missing, and this. So I don't know. Not like I can't use this metal someplace else. I don't remember what I paid for that. But yeah, I'd only need like that much of it. And cut this off. This little strip. But there's a lot of bends and a nut. So I don't know. I'm thinking on that one. Although I do have the bender, so yeah, I think that's my next plan of action. Finish cleaning that up, get the A-pillar cleaned up, get the holes tapped out of the car instead of trying to do it in the car because the other side was a pain in the butt. And put this thing back on the chassis, and she won't come back off the chassis until everything's welded together. She'll have to come off the chassis to finish the underside welding and like the front of the firewall and that, but that wheel well will be fixed, the quarter panel will be fixed, everything will be welded together. That way the next time she comes off the chassis, she is a locked together car that isn't gonna move. So that's my plan. We'll see how far I get tonight. Alrighty, pillars are cleaned up, and I got the bar back in there so she can fly again. I still have to tap them holes, and I think I'm gonna spot weld that together. It sits in there so nice. So I'll keep working. I still haven't gotten a decent tap set. So 5mm hex, 1/4 inch socket. The poor man's tap. It works. Oh, it started raining and the temperature dropped from 70 to 62, so I turned the diesel heater on low. I got it. I got the fuel. Might as well stay nice in here tonight. So yeah, I'll get these all tapped out and see what we can do. Okay, got all the holes tapped, ran a bolt through with NSCs on all of them, and spot weld that end back together. So that's ready to go in the car. Yeah. Figure out some way of holding it in the car while I drop it back on the chassis. I don't know. Joe keeps saying to weld the door shut, get the gaps right, weld the door shut, then go down, but this thing is so lacking metal that she's all wonky, even though I have it braced in the center. So I think this is the best bet to go, is that chassis is all welded together, so put her back on the chassis, use that as a template, and then move everything around from there. And if I need to, I can weld the doors up once it's all back together. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay. I was just checking it out. Looks like that rear brace that's coming across, holding the back end up, pretty much in place. I should have put that ratchet strap on the inside of the brace because it's kind of pulling it on the towards the center of the car. But I want to put the jack stand under it quick and open up the door and just double check the pillars before I do this. So that's going to work with one strap in the front. I have it just run over the door into a missing bolt hole in the, well, missing a bolt or nut. So, and I don't have, I'm not putting crazy, I'm not tightening that down, it's just loose. So I'm going to put the jack stand underneath it, double check the pillars, and then that's what I'm going to do. And pick this thing up in the air, put her down on the chassis. So let's see what I can do. There's one little spot right there. I marked it with a black marker. And one little spot right there. I'm going to knock those off. I'm going to drop this down, knock those off. Then I'm going to clean this up on both of them with it out of the way. And put her back in. Okay. I got that piece of metal out of the B pillar. I put that notch on the A pillar. I've got the ratchet strap go around the door like I did before on the other side of the frame. And she's sitting in here close. The back end's held together by the body, and the front end's held up with that ratchet strap. So I am going to pick her up in the air and get that chassis back in here. It's sitting in there really close. I'll feel better. Get it all down on the chassis and then match the body up to it. That way it all matches together. So that's the plan. Let's see what I can get done. That hoist, the way the cable runs, is just a little bit off center, so I'm just lining the bug up underneath the hoist cable. So the rear view mirror bracket is the center of the car. So it'll be a little bit to the right, but that's what I gotta do. Alrighty. Lisa wanted to know why I didn't have a remote that was long enough. And I do. It's just usually tied up on the pole. It comes all the way out here. And it goes around the pole, so it could even be longer. Alright, Patches. Up and away. And there she is. Yeah. That old gantry I built holds together pretty good. Till the car comes crashing to the ground, right guys? Anyways, let me get the dolly out from underneath it and get that frame back in here. Chassis, frame, whatever you want to call it. Tunnel stand in there nice. Alrighty. Alright. I got the rack off to the side. That looks a little more impressive. Alrighty. Let me get that chassis unbagged and get her pushed in here. See if I can't get her setting back on her again. Old Patches is flying. Alrighty. That's close. So I gotta get Jack under the front end because it's a super beetle. So Jack under the front end so I can take that brace system I have out. And at some point I'm gonna make alignment pins for this thing so that when I'm setting it down, it can hit the pins and just drop right into place. That's on the plans to get worked. The back has those braces. Those have threads in those. In the front here, I think I'm going to have to put them in the body. Because all the nut pockets are up in the body in the front. But if I have some pins, as I bring this down, get about 6 inches away, I can drop it straight down on it. When it's all painted, I don't want to be messing it all up, so something to work on. But for now, she's going back down on her. Alrighty. I took the die grinder, put back the band in, and got the hose out here. Took the die grinder and cleaned up around those nut pockets so I wouldn't have a problem. Kind of hit the threads on the nut pockets, and so I thought, oh, I'll just clean those up, and totally forgot those were 3/8 standard. So now they're tapped out to where they're supposed to be. It's tapped to 10 by 1.5 now. So it no longer has standard nut pockets in there. They're tapped out to metric. At least 10 is bigger than 3/8, so the threads look really nice. Ran some anti-seize up in them. They're all cleaned up around them, so the bolts should go back in them. So I think that's the last thing I need to do before dropping this thing down on the body or on the chassis. So I'm gonna try and get this thing down on the chassis and call her a night. So give me a second. Okay. She's back down. She's not on there. She's just sitting on there. There's a lot of tweaking and adjusting to get this thing lined all up again. So that's enough for me tonight. She's back on. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.